It was the summer of 1995, the year of cassette tapes, dial-up internet, and Saturday morning cartoons. But for my grandpa, it was the year the HOA made the biggest mistake of their lives. Grandpa had lived in his small suburban neighborhood for almost 20 years. His house wasn't flashy, just a little brick home with a front porch where he drank coffee every morning. He loved mowing his lawn, tending to his rose bushes, and sitting in his old rocking chair while listening to baseball on the radio. But the new HOA board didn't care about tradition or neighbors or respect. They cared about rules, and they cared about fines. It started small. A letter slipped under his door saying his grass was too long. Then came a warning about the color of his shutters. Next, they claimed his old pickup truck didn't fit the neighborhood image. Week after week, envelopes came demanding money, 50 here, 100 there. By the end of summer, they claimed he owed more than $2,000 in fines. I was just a kid back then, but I remember asking him why he didn't fight back. He just smiled, leaned back in his rocking chair, and said, "Patience, kiddo. They don't know who they're messing with." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't panic. He just kept his calm, watering his roses every evening like nothing was happening. But behind that calm smile, Grandpa had a plan. One morning, 2 HOA board members came knocking. They were smug, dressed in suits way too fancy for a Saturday morning. "Mr. Thompson," one of them said, "if you don't pay these fines, we'll begin foreclosure proceedings. You could lose your home." You'll never forget the way Grandpa leaned back, crossed his arms, and simply replied, "Is that so?" The men smirked, handed him the papers, and walked away like they had already won. What the HOA didn't know was that my grandpa wasn't just a quiet old man with a love for roses. Back in the 1970s and 80s, he had been a respected attorney. Not just any attorney, a property law specialist who had gone toe-to-toe with city councils, developers, and yes, homeowners associations. He knew the law better than any of them, and he knew exactly where the HOA had overstepped. That very evening, Grandpa pulled out his old typewriter and started drafting letters. He referenced case law, cited statutes, and outlined how the HOA had violated their own bylaws, not to mention state law. He even uncovered that one of the board members was misusing HOA funds, something that could get them into serious legal trouble. A week later, the HOA called a special meeting. The room was packed with neighbors, most of whom had also been victims of the board's ridiculous fines. The president of the HOA started the meeting confidently, listing off rules and boasting about how they were improving the neighborhood. Then Grandpa stood up, calm, steady, and holding a thick folder of papers. In that quiet, commanding voice of his, he laid out every violation the board had committed. He presented proof of financial mismanagement. He reminded them and everyone in the room that their threats of foreclosure were not only unenforceable but flat-out illegal. The crowd murmured. The smug smiles of the board members vanished. By the end of Grandpa's speech, the room was on his side. Within a month, 3 board members had resigned. The HOA dropped every single fight against my grandpa. And as for the president, he was forced to step down after neighbors demanded new leadership. Grandpa never bragged about his victory. He didn't gloat. He just went back to watering his roses, rocking on his porch, and listening to baseball on the radio. But he'll never forget what he told me that night as the cicadas buzzed in the warm summer air. "Kiddo, bullies only win if you let them. The law is like a rose bush. It's got thorns, but in the right hands it protects what's beautiful." And that's the story of how my grandpa, back in 1995, ended an entire HOA's reign of harassment with one secret they never saw coming. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful true story narrations. Hit that like button, share this with a friend, and tell me in the comments, do you think my grandpa was a hero?